guys, I didn't attention. I was just looking.
When we graph, we start the graph like we would start a circle. You start with the center, because that's what everything's based around. So, down here, our key components are center. You're gonna go to the number near x and a number near y and take the center out of there. So, if it says x minus 1, the x coordinate of your center is 1. If it says y plus 2, the y coordinate of your center would be negative 2. Okay, so on your graph, you're going to graph 1, negative 2 as your center. I've told you this before, I graph my center with an x so that it doesn't look like some other random point on the graph, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can graph it like a circle.
I'm not gonna lie, if you would never told us that, I would have done 1 over 25 and said that was x.
Oh wow.
Because I thought that's how it was.
No, so those are different. So this number, we're going to take the square root of and get 5. Now because 25 is underneath the x's, do you see how it's like under the x's and like how 9 is under the y's? So because it's under the x's, we're going to move 5 in the x direction, which would be left and right, from the center.
Miss Wright, your notes are different.
Not the homework, guys, the notes.
So this is
Yeah.
notes. That's homework.
That is homework.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why do you square root it?
Because the form of the equation is like x minus h squared over a squared. So this is representing a squared, which means that a has to be 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you got the square root.
There you go.
So that means if we square root this one,
It's 3.
3, and
Up or
since
down,
it's
right?
underneath the y, we're going to go up and down 3. So like b would be 3, and we're going to go up 3 and down 3. So we're sort of doing what we did for the circle,
This is easy.
but it is not supposed to be hard. 1, 2, 3. So we're sort of doing what we did for the circle, but we don't have just one radius, we have 2. Like we have a vertical radius and a horizontal radius.
And now it makes 2.
So if asked, what would be the length of the major axis?
5.
5.
10.
10. Remember, it's the whole
'cause-
thing.
oh.
What would be the length of the minor axis?
6.
6. Okay, so minor axis 6, major axis would be 10. So it's referring to the stretch from one vertex to the other. Either in the smaller direction would be minor, larger direction would be major. And then you're gonna like kind of round off these edges a little bit and like attempt to make an ellipse.
I got a streak for
Stew.
Who invented the ellipse?
Michael Jackson.
Who invented the ellipse?
Michael Jackson didn't invent this.
Alright. The next things we're gonna find are foci, or the focus points. So foci or foci. To find out where the foci are, you're gonna use the a squared minus b squared equals c squared equation. And you're calculating how far the focus points are from the center. So what is a squared?
25.
And what is b squared?
9.
What's 25 minus 9?
Some number squared.
16.
Squared, right?
So that makes c
4.
Okay. Now, that doesn't mean the focus is at 4. That means the focus is 4 units away from the center. And it always goes, so there's 2 of them, they always go in the direction of where the ellipse is longer.
So 10.
So the low one is x-axis.
Yeah,
That
so
makes sense.
1, 2, 3, 4, we'd have a focus point. And then going this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, we'd have another focus
Why is
point.
that a focus?
They should look the same distance from, each
You
other.
don't
in the
have to
center.
connect them.
So it's only on the major axis?
What?
Is it only on the major axis?
Yeah, so they always go along the major axis. There's no focus points around the, along the minor axis. And then we're gonna identify where those points are. So, let's see, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, so -5, comma, -2. And then this one's at 1, 2, 3, comma, -2. So they should be like in line with the center. They should have the same y value as the center because they are along that major axis. And they'll just have different x values because they're like c to the left or c to the right of the center. And that's kind of it for the major components. When we write equations, they might identify like vertices or something. So that's why I was telling you, like, these are vertices. That guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy, those are vertices. They also might call them endpoints of the major or minor axis. So endpoints of axis. When the y, when the y is written first, it's because it's longer in the y direction. Now you might see them switched, but typically we write the y first when it's a vertical ellipse because we want to put the bigger or the major axis first. When you identify the center, you want to go to the x first and then the y. So x and then y, 3, -1. So your center should be at 3, -1, not -1, 3. Stop. Stop.
I told you, you're wrong.
What do you mean I'm wrong?
He's mad because I'm gonna do better than him on the SAT. That's like,
Who's mad?
salty, bro. You.
You're mad. You took it Saturday. How do you
Yeah.
know what you got?
So then you're going to go to underneath the y. So underneath the y we have a 36. We're going to take the square root of that. Or not a 36, a 64. We're going to take the square root of that and we get 8. Since it's underneath y, that is how far we'll go in the vertical direction. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to go down 8, which is going to put me a little off the graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8. So I apologize, I'm a little off the graph. And we're going to do the same thing with the other denominator. And we get 4 in the horizontal direction. It's in the horizontal direction because it's underneath x, which is the horizontal letter.
That's I kept the 4 there. That's
So
why.
you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you will connect those 4 points.
Well, that really looks like Armand's head.
Okay, and then you'll find your foci by doing a squared minus b squared equals c squared. So 64 minus 16 equals c squared. So 64 minus 16 is going to be
48.
48.
The square root of that's going to be 6.9.
So it's so first I'm going to identify c
This is
by simplifying the square root of 48.
Square root.
It's like 6 point something.
No,
It is. Hold on. Don't
four
rush.
square root.
Don't rush. First, we're going to identify what c is by simplifying it. So the square root of 48,
6 and
4 numbers that go in are
Six,
like
eight.
2 and 24,
12 and 2.
2 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 3. Okay. So the square root of 48 simplifies to 4
I'm right.
root 3.
What was that?
Up.
What? I really understood that. I was at 4 root
2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 3.
3. Yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
Just test me.
Now, which direction would we put the focus? Left, right, up, down?
Up, down.
Up, down. So you said earlier that the square root of 48 is approximately, it's in between 6 and 7, but it's closer to 7. So
Yeah,
we'll
it's
say like 6.8.
You would.
So I'm going to go 6.8 above the center and 6.8 below the center, and I'm going to put points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0.8-ish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0.8-ish.
That's not really stupid.
Now when I say where they are, I'm going to use the exact distance. So if the center is here at 3, -1, which coordinate didn't change? The 3 or the -1? The 3. Okay, so the 3 didn't change. Now the -1, I added and I subtracted 4 root 3. So from the y coordinate -1, I went up, which is plus, and I went down, which is minus 4 square root 3. So when I write the coordinates of it, I have -1 plus or minus 4 root 3. This is the exact location. The green dots are my approximate location. Okay? So that's how we identify the focus here. When we graph it, we get to guesstimate. But by putting this here, we're saying we know exactly where it is. These are the approximate location.
I sound like a dumb person. Do you ever have a negative foci? Yeah, I need that.
Yeah.
Last one for trust you.
When there are no parentheses, that means that that particular coordinate is 0. So since it's not like x minus something, that means the x coordinate of your vertex is going to be 0. Oh, not vertex, center. We're not doing a parabola. So your center x is 0, and then your center y is -4. That's our set. Down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your center can be at 0, 0. Like sometimes it'll be at 0, 0. And it'll just look like x squared and y squared. Now, do you see how there's like no denominator here? That doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, you're just going to put it over 1. Because remember, you can make anything a fraction by putting it over 1. It's like simplified when it's written without the 1, but we sort of need to know what its denominator is because that's what's going to tell us like how to make the ellipse. We're not going to assume it's 0 for several reasons. If it's 0, then it doesn't make sense mathematically because we can't divide by 0. So a denominator can never be 0. But also, if it's 0, then you're saying that like your axis is 0, which doesn't make sense because then it would just be like this. It wouldn't be an ellipse at all. So it's definitely not 0. So it's got to be 1. It has to be something. So then we're going to identify A and B. So under x, I have 49, which means that I'm going to go 7 in the x direction. So 7, 7 in the x direction. And I didn't have something under y, so I put a 1 there. What's the square root of 1? Yeah. So I'm going to go 1 up and down. So it's like a really, really skinny horizontal ellipse. Really tiny.
It's like blank
Boys.
Okay. Something like that. Then we're going to state where our foci are. We need a squared minus b squared equals c squared. What's a squared?
7.
What's
No.
the
4, sorry, 49.
49.
If you count
What's
it.
b squared?
Minus 1.
Is it 7 on the
So you get 48 and then you have to square.
Just say the denominators.
Is it 7?
So didn't we just do 48? So we
Yeah.
know it's like 4 root 3 already.
And 6.8.
And we know it's like 6.8-ish. So I'm going to go in which direction?
Up the right.
Left and right.
Why not up and down?
Because
Up and down
it's
is
impossible.
tiny.
It's
Yeah,
the
up
major
and down
axis.
is tiny. It
Major
wouldn't go in
axis.
there. It has to go along the major axis. If I went up 6,
If you
the
try.
foci would be outside the ellipse. That doesn't make sense. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a bunch. It's going to be like right here, and this one's going to be like right here. When we state the foci, what changed?
The
-4.
No, the X. Ooh.
The x moved. The y stayed the same. So the y is the same. The x went left and right this number. So you could put 0 plus or minus 4 root 3, but that's kind of weird. We're just going to write plus or minus 4 root 3 because 0 is not going to do anything. So our focus
Don't
points are at 4 root 3 and -4 root 3. So this one's at 4 root 3 and this one's at -4 root 3. Or you could think of that as like the square root of 48 comma -3 and then the negative square root of 48. Oh, I'm saying 3, aren't I? 4. I mean 4. So like square root of 48 comma -4, negative square root of 48 comma -4. Okay, so they're still at the y coordinate -4. The x coordinate moved left and right 4 root 3.
Sure, why can't we use 6.9 for the
Because that's not exact.
Okay.
And this is exact. So we do 6.9 when we graph it because that's approximately where it is.
You said 6.8.
But it's not exact. I mean, you're guessing. Unless you have a calculator, you don't actually know where it is. You're guessing. So 6.8, 6.9, but you don't know really where it is.
Okay.
All right, so on camera. Good job.
Oops.
Your center is at the x coordinate 2 and the y coordinate -2. Now I scaled my graph. So 2, -2 is right here.
It's a dodgy looking graph.
I know.
GG.
The major axis is along the y direction, okay? And it's B or A is 10, so the whole major axis would be 20 units long. We're gonna go 10 above and 10 below. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then we're gonna go 6 in the horizontal direction. So the minor axis would be 12 total units long. We would go 6 and 6 to the left and right. So that's 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6.
Easy enough. I'm going to.
Okay, ellipse. Now your foci, we're gonna do 100 minus 36 equals c squared. 100 minus 36 is 64, so that makes C8. So that's nice because it's a perfect square.
You're going 8
Spell
up.
center on
8 above and 8
Where?
below. So 2, 4, 6, 8,
center.
and 8.
Sorry.
So that would be 8 above and 8 below.
Yes.
So 8 above is at 2, 6. 8 below is at 2, -10.
Can you do 2? Never mind. You can't do that. No.
You can.
I was saying, can you do 2 plus or minus?
Does that
if they're
make you
different?
happy?
Yes, thank you.
What?
I was gonna ask you to do 2 plus or minus, but they're different coordinates.
So when you can actually like simplify to an integer, you don't want to do -2 plus or minus 8 because that's just silly. You want to actually see where they are. You always want to state the exact. So we do the plus or minus because it saves us time. But when you can simplify it, you always want to simplify. So don't put -2 plus or minus 8. Say
Freeze
where
math
they
or
are.
something. Oh, we can?